Hi everyone, welcome to another project analysis video, and today we're going to talk about this development called Tengah Garden Residences. And the buzz around town, right, for this development, right, is that the price is very close to EC pricing. Yeah, but is only price the only factor that is for investment, or is there other things to consider? So this is what we're going to talk about in today's video. I think the main three concerns that I have for Tengah Garden Residences, right, would actually be firstly, the demand uncertainty. Because Tengah Garden Residences, right, will have quite a fair bit of 2 bedrooms. Yeah, so this is something to consider. Then for those 3 bedrooms and above, or even the whole development by itself, for those that know this area, right, there's going to be a lot of EC, right, that is going to MOP soon. Right, and how would this actually affect the demand for Tengah Garden Residences, even with the EC-like pricing? And also lastly, because of this whole thing, right, what is the time sensitivity of it? Because buying is easy. I always say buying is easy, but to exit, right, there's a lot of factors to consider. So first, before we even dive deeper, right, just to give you an overview of how this development is like so that we can talk about the strength, the weaknesses, and whether is it really a good investment or even a good buy for own stay. So just a quick summary of this. There's total 863 residential developments in this area. So right below there's commercial. Then also next to it is there's the MRT station. The expected TOP date, right, will be on September 2029. So these are the developers. They have Hong Leong, Guoco Land, as well as CSC Land. Okay, so location wise is actually at Hong Kah MRT station, and Hong Kah MRT station will be done in 2028. Yeah, and this part over here, right, most of the land here is not done up yet. Like for example, this river or huge pond, yeah, this one is actually right now, if you drive there, it'll be just sand. So by then, right, it'll be a waterway. Yeah, right behind will be the hospital. There's this Kranji primary school that's coming up. Then if you link to the MRT station, right, this MRT station will link you to the west side of Singapore, like Boon Lay, Jurong. So these are where the job opportunities or even the renters may come from. Yeah, and so this is the master plan. So this is where the hospital will be. This is where the water body parts will be. This is where Tengah Garden Residence is. Then all these, right, are the BTO. And this one will be the Kranji school, and there will be another school here. Okay, so coming to schools, this will be the schools around the location. The one that are boxed up, all these are 1 kilometer to the project. Then the rest surrounding is actually about 2 kilometers away. Okay, and these are some artist impression. So this is the huge water body and the MRT track. So the MRT track, right, will be above ground, right? It's not underground. Okay, and comes to the site map. So the site map for this development is a little bit interesting. So later we'll see the floor plan, right? Some of the stacks will have different layouts. Yeah, although it's the same stack. Yeah, so these are things to take note of, especially during purchase, right? And interestingly, this project, right, has some function rooms, has a lot of function rooms, and 3 of the function rooms, right, is actually above the sky level, right? Which is example here. Then in between here, there are sky terraces, right? Right in between here, and also like here. Right, all this information, right, can be found online, but if you really need this information, you can always PM me or DM me, and I can always send you all this information. Yep, so I won't go into too much details. And this is a site map, also just another quick one. So this is actually the tennis court, which is away. The MRT station is above here, and it's above ground MRT station. Right here is the paddle court, right? So it's not a pickleball court, it's a paddle court. And the layout wise, or the facing wise, right, are all just two facing. So it's either you face outwards to the hospital, or you face inwards this direction and face towards the water body here, right? The huge river. Okay, so come to the one of the main concerns that you might have, or I have at this point of time, is that the demand, right, for the 2 bedrooms, right, in the resale market, right, might not be as good. Okay, so this might be a bit contradicting to the purchasing, right? When you see the new launch being bought at the time, right, you see a lot of people go and buy the new launch for the 2 bedroom because when we see the chart, right, the new launch always get taken up first. But then when it comes to resale, right, it tells another story. Over here, right, in Tengah Garden Residences, they have 39% of it is 2 bedrooms, which is 337 units. Just like I mentioned, why is the take-up rate for new launch at the point of time of sale is very high, but during resale, right, it slows down. So the reason for the new launch being taken up very fast, right, is because 2 bedroom itself has a lower quantum compared to the other bigger bedroom types, which means in terms of investment, right, it's more pocket friendly, it's easier to enter. So during booking day that time, the 2 bedrooms are always the one that go up first. But when it comes to resale, it's a very different story. Because the mindset of a buyer that buys during new launch, right, is to buy for investment. But the mindset of a buyer that buy during resale, right, they may be considering to buy for investment as well, maybe a bit for rental, but the main mindset, a majority of them, right, will probably look for own stay first, right? Especially area like Tengah Garden Residences, where it's surrounded by BTOs, as just now you saw in the master plan. These buyers that sell their house, right, would likely want to shift somewhere near, upgrade to a private, but they need space. So a 2 bedroom, right, may not fit all family types, especially some of the family types that have 2 kids. Then if one, each kid to have 1 room, then it will definitely be a mismatch. Yeah, so when it comes to resale, right, what they're looking for is a different story, right? They're looking for livability. They're not looking for mainly budget is important definitely, but livability is the first priority. It must be livable for the family first, so it's family driven. So the demand for 2 bedrooms generally in the resale market might be a bit slower. Right, so you can see this trend from one of the developments also in the west side that just TOP. This is Dairy Farm Residences. So you see, let's say for example, 2 bedrooms over here. You can see that the annualization, we look at annualization, is about maybe 1 to 2% kind of annualization. But when it comes to the 3 bedroom, right, you can see that the annualization, right, easily, right, can hit about 3% on average. Yeah, so this is really the main difference, is people looking for own stay. Dairy Farm Residences also, this area over here, quite a number of them looking for own stay rather than also purely just to buy and rent. But for other developments, right, I'm showing you River Isles. Okay, why I'm showing River Isles is because River Isles really tell a whole different story. If you see River Isles, right, I'm showing you a 1 bedroom over here, but just now I mentioned, say that people looking for own stay ma. Yeah, because see, like for example, if I go back to Dairy Farm Residences, the profits they make it's about 100 plus for a 2 bedroom. But this one, River Isles tells a different story. You see, for a 1 bedroom, right, it's about 130 over thousand. Yeah, so it's definitely even more than Dairy Farm Residences. Yeah, but this one tells a different story because of the niche. So the niche in demand. So if I take River Isles, right, within 1 kilometer, these are the developments. So very similar to Tengah Garden Residences in the future, surrounded by ECs. All these are ECs. But then this one over here, right, this one is actually a normal condominium. The difference will be this. The 1 bedroom over here, there's only River Isles. So this is like a niche. Although the demand, right, for the 1 or 2 bedrooms or the smaller types unit, right, for own stay, right, is very low. But the supply also very low. Surrounding here, there is no 1 bedroom. Even the development itself, right, in River Isles, right, there's only 15 units. Yeah, so the demand would naturally be low but with a low demand, but the supply is limited. This might be the same case for Tengah Garden Residences, but must be very mindful because if the next private residence or residential comes up, right, with more 2 bedroom supply, right, and if the demand is naturally lower, then it might be harder to sell also. So timing for 2 bedroom is very sensitive. So if Tengah Garden Residences, right, were to TOP in September 2029, but you still gotta wait for 1 more year of SSD, which is then 2023. Yeah, this I think would be a good time to more or less exit to be safe, because you can see that amount of supply, right, for the 3 bedrooms. This is just the estimate. For the surrounding Tengah area, right, there is about 1,289 household. But out of 1,289 household, not everybody will definitely go and upgrade. So why I'm taking 3 bedrooms in here, right, as a context to say that they might be the one that's purchasing Tengah Garden Residences, right, is because personally I've seen like people upgrading from a 3-room HDB, right, to a private. They are more acceptable in terms of the size. Right, if you ask someone, for example, a 4-room or even a 5-room, suddenly to buy a 2 bedroom, right, in these developments, right, it might be a bit tough or hard to accept because livability will be an issue. So most of them I've seen are either 3 bedroom or 4 bedrooms, some, right, upgrading to the 2-bedder. We also don't list just an estimate of the demand. So I say 30% of these 1,289, assuming that they go and buy 2 bedrooms, right? So this is about 386 household, which is quite okay, right? So this is just an estimate, quite okay, because they have Tengah Garden Residences have 337 units. So the demand as of now may still match in a way, right? But if let's say more developments come up in the future, then the demand might be slow. So in terms of when you want to sell at a point of time on the later date, when new developments are up, it might be tougher to sell, right? Or slower to sell in a way. Okay, so this is one of the concerns. So later we will summarize it up to talk about timing. Yeah, so now it's just the 2 bedroom only. So, but what about the 3 bedrooms or the 4 bedrooms? Because the most important thing, right, although we know that there is people that's buying for own stay, right, but the main competition with this, the completion for the EC MOP blocks. Because EC MOP blocks, right, once they come up, right, in terms of the room size, they might be slightly bigger, and in terms of affordability, depending also of the projects, it might be a bit of a competition to Tengah Garden Residences. So some of you may be already thinking, say, but Tengah Garden Residences is a bit different because it's next to the MRT station as well as the commercial at the bottom, right? So these could be some of the differentiating factor. But in order to enhance this, right, there's this thing called a sweet spot, right? So the sweet spot is something for all developments that usually I will share my clients to say, hey, you must actually focus on this sweet spot so that even if other competition come up, for example, if you're surrounded by a resale EC, right, if you hit this sweet spot, in terms of your unit, not just development, right, you are in a much safer position. So we're going to talk about sweet spot now. So what I mean by sweet spot is this. From this matrix, you can see that the sweet spot is right here at the bottom. So what is this sweet spot? The sweet spot is that if you have a unique selling point, right, the stronger it is, right, the unique selling point of a development, right, you tend to have a better advantage. But even if your unique selling point is good over here, but your price point here is high, right, it still might be slower to sell. So in short, the sweet spot is to find somewhere that you can get a not a high premium, but you still enjoy the unique selling point. Then this will be the perfect sweet spot. If you get the worst case scenario one, which is a high price plus no unique selling point, then this one is definitely overpriced. When it comes to the development itself, this is something that you really have to consider to actually safeguard yourself, even with the extra competition that's coming up. For example, for the Tengah Garden Residences would be actually the resale EC. Okay, before we go a little bit further, so if you have any questions so far about this development or even anything like how to select units, you can always WhatsApp us. So you can WhatsApp myself or you can WhatsApp my partner Celine, right? And this is our contact details. Okay, so for Tengah Garden Residences, we talk about the sweet spot as well as the pricing. So where the pricing I feel right would be cheaper will probably be either here or here. So why here or here? This part here is facing the hospital. This is hospital here. This part here, right, will actually be the MRT. But my guess is I feel here near the MRT station, right, would likely be cheaper. Okay, you can see from here, you can see like these bigger unit types. So the one in purple or light purple, right, these are actually the 4-bedroom units. And the 4-bedroom units, you can see that they are facing already to the river side. So what it means is that very likely, I feel that the loading, when we talk about loading, is the premium, the price point or where the developers will put a higher premium at would likely be the bedroom type as well as the facing. So this is where the price point is. So you talk about price point itself, we can actually select here or here. But then we still got to consider one more factor, which is the unique selling point. So the unique selling point, right, of this development, I personally feel, right, would be the convenience. Right, so what's stopping you from choosing a resale EC compared to a Tengah Garden Residences, right, development, right, is you buy Tengah Garden Residences, for those that will buy in the future, right, will probably want the convenience of the MRT station, and also maybe the commercial side. But the commercial side, I maybe not a huge factor because it's not a super huge mall. But for example, the MRT station, right, I think it will be the very big plus point. So the entrance to the MRT station, right, is just right here. So if someone were to buy this development for convenience, right, their priority, right, would be as convenient as possible. So I feel that the blocks nearer to the MRT station, right, would definitely have a stronger USP. Right, this development as a whole, of course, the highlight will be able to link to the MRT station, but staying at the end of this development, right, to walk to the MRT station, right, also will take some time. The second unique selling point, right, will probably be this river over here. Right, river facing. But in order to get this facing over here, right, as mentioned just now, it might be a bit more of a premium because the premium might load there. That means it might be more expensive. So the next best, in order to get the river facing as well as the MRT convenience, right, personally, I feel like these few blocks over here, like for example, this part over here, will probably have more of the unique selling point because they are near MRT station, which is here, the entrance to MRT station. But at the same time, right, they still have pocket views of the river. And the premium loading is probably, I mentioned just now, will probably be the bigger bedroom types as well as the facing or the river facing one. And to make it even safer, right, because you're buying an MRT track and this is the above ground one. So some people have this concern, say, the MRT noise might be a bit noisy. Which is true, like the higher it is, it might be a bit more noisy. So as of now, right, we're not too sure where the MRT will be. Rumor has it like level 8 to 11, plus minus about there, right? So if you get something above here, the advantages is that you are definitely near the MRT station and you definitely get a river view because it's above the MRT track, especially for maybe level 12 and above, right? It is safe. But the thing is that you might get some sound. And I think the sweet spot in terms for this level, right, will probably be level 4 to 7. Because 4 to 7, what you see is you see the pillars at the bottom. As of now, of course, we are not too sure like how the pillars will block the river view, but at least you probably get some pocket views of the rivers, but not too noisy, and at the same time still convenience. That means just right downstairs will be the entrance to the MRT station already. Then below here, which is likely the quieter one. And by the way, you don't start from level 1, start from level 2 and above, right? Depending on some of the blocks also, they may start from level 3 or so. But no level 1. Okay. So for here, right, probably level 2 or 3, the lower floors itself, you would actually be very safe, very quiet, no MRT sound. But then you don't have the unique selling point of the river facing. Right, so you got the unique selling point of the MRT because it's the block just very near the MRT station. So ideally, I feel maybe level 4 to 7 would be the most ideal So it's to make the spot even sweeter. So this part will be the second half of the thing to take note of. Although you know like what kind of unit that you can select or what's the unique selling point, the sweet spot. Overall as a development, right, I think this is something that you have to take note of if you're looking at Tengah Garden Residences because the supply, right, coming up, right, will be the easiest. For example, there'll be Copen Grand coming up, right? Copen Grand, I feel, will be the direct competitor. Although Tengah Garden Residences, right, would be TOP in 2029, but you cannot sell at the point of time. You only can sell in 2030 because 4-year SSD for the stamp duty. Technically, you can send at point of time lah, but I don't think anybody want to pay extra for the SSD lah. Yeah, so direct competitor will probably be coupon grant. I didn't put in auto place and novo place because these two development will probably MOP back in 2033 to 2034, so it will definitely take some time. So not so fast. Yeah, so the direct competitor will be actually coupon grant and Altura. So have to be very mindful about the timing. So in terms of timeline, it'll be as follows. So just now we saw already like Tengah BTOs, right? They will MOP, right? The wave, they will start back in about 2028. So all of them will start coming in already. So by 2028, right, and that will be the window, the small window for the demand all the way, right, will probably for the next 2 to 3 years. So if let's say, for example, just as mentioned, Tengah Garden Residences, right, probably SSD end in 2030, but then you got coupon grant also, which is 2030. As in like, if let's say you want to exit, this is probably the pocket of window for you to exit before the rest of the ECs, right, also start to MOP at the same time. So overall, right, for Tengah Garden Residences, right, in terms of price point, definitely is nice. But in terms of competitiveness, right, because there's a lot of supply going to come up at the same time. Yes lah, the fact is that the ECs are 5 years old, meaning that somebody stayed there for 5 years, but generally still quite new, and some of the price point, right, could be very, very competitive also, right, in the resale market. In order for you to maximize your profits or returns, right, these are the main two things I think for Tengah Garden Residences that you probably have to take note of. Okay. Then we come to another sector, which is actually the floor plan analysis. Yeah, so this one will be, I'll just run through a quick one. But if you want the full floor plan, you can always let me know. I can always send you the full floor plan in a PDF version also. Right, okay, so for one beta, I'm not going to talk about much. Okay, so basically all these, right, the one that I highlighted, right, is the one that I think has the unique selling point as well as the pricing. So these are the stack numbers. So just take note of the stack numbers that are highlighted in the light green. Right, so this one will probably be the sweet spot and the stack to look out for. Okay, so one bedroom, I think I'm not going to talk much. Quite standard, quite nice, open kitchen concept. The good thing about nowadays, we see the one bedroom, right, is have jet and toilet, which means you have open entrance towards the living room area as well as the bedroom. Yeah, so this is nice. Yeah. Then the two bedrooms. Okay, so the two bedrooms, right, there is actually total of 4 different layouts. 1 2-bedroom and 2 2-bedroom premium, and also 1 bedroom with study. Okay, so out of these, right, we just take the 2-bedroom first to run through a quick one. So this one, the 2-bedroom, only have 1 bath, right? 1 bath. Then I think most of the highlight of this, right, is that the kitchen itself is all one corner, so tight at one side. So there's a possibility to make it an enclosed kitchen. So I see some of the 2-bedrooms now, right, they make it this way, which is very nice. So same thing, jet and toilet right over here. Then for 2-bedroom premium onwards, these two itself, the only difference would actually be the living room size. Right. Other than that, right, in terms of layout, very similar, maybe just some configuration differences also. The master bedroom, of course, have their own bath. So, and the other room, right, the common room, right, actually also can link. So it's a jet and toilet. So it's very nice. Technically, this one can be a junior master suite also. So this is a 2-bedroom premium. Then also I highlighted the stacks, right, which could be potentially be the sweet spot. So again, right, all the sweet spot, right, of course, the unique selling point will be there. But another factor is also to take note of the pricing. So the pricing we won't know as of now. It's only due the booking day, right? Then we know the price. Then from there, then we can share with you further. Say, okay, this price point as well as the unique selling point, does it actually make sense to enter this unit for a sweet spot? Yep. Okay, then the last one will actually the 2 plus study. Right, so 2 plus study is at 70 square meter. Right, everything the same except, okay, you got an extra study room over here. So in terms of layout wise, this study room I feel is a bit of a wasted space, because although you got entrance here, right, from the toilet, right, but a lot of times I see because of this door over here being open, right, you can't do much. You can't do shelving or anything like that over here, unless you really want to make it into a wall over here. Then of course you can do your shelving now. So the concept is nice, but usually this space a little bit wasted, because if your guest wants to enter, right, from here, right, you enclose this up, then this whole space sector over here, right, almost half the study room, right, cannot be used. You only can use the second half of it. Yeah, so personally, I feel it's a little bit of a wasted space for this study room itself. Yeah. So in terms of my choice, I would feel this one over here, the unit size, right, for 2-bedroom, right, because this one has 2 bed, 2 bath, as well as most of the stacks here might fit into the sweet spot. And in terms of price quantum, is 61 square meter compared to the next one, which is 62 square meter. And of course, study is 70 square meters. So in terms of pricing, right, it's going to be much affordable. And why 2 bath at least? So that even though, as mentioned, livability, right, might be a factor that they're going to choose a 3-bedroom, but there are also people that upgrade from a 3-room, or even budget constraint, they really might consider a 2-bedroom, but with the condition of livability again, at least 2 bathroom so that the family can really use. Like the kids use one, then the parents use one. Yeah, so this one would be my top choice, right, for 2 bedroom. Okay, for 3 bedroom, right? So for 3 bedroom, there is 2 slides. Yeah, so 3 bedroom is a little bit messy. Okay, so we break it down. Okay, so the first one, 3A. 3A itself, right, is the smaller size, smaller size 3 bedrooms with 74 square meter. So 74 square meter, right? And why they can do it so small, right? Because it's dumbbell. So dumbbell, again, for those that haven't heard of dumbbell units, right? In the middle here, this is where the living room is. At the side here, this is 1 bedroom, and the other side, there's 1 bedroom. So it's like a dumbbell shape, right? Then over here, I feel that the configuration is efficient, right? But only thing that I don't like about this, right, is actually that the kitchen, right, has no windows. Although there's a possibility, right, to do an enclosed kitchen concept, but having a window would be nice. Then the next one will be this layout, 76. So from here onwards, the layout, right, will all be the traditional layout, meaning all the bedrooms, right, will be at one side already. Then the living room standard, then the kitchen will be here. So the kitchen from this floor plan onwards, right, will actually have a window over here already. So technically, it's an enclosable kitchen with a window over here. The next one will be 77 square meter, which is a 3 bedroom also. Yep. And the only main difference with these two, right, would be the living room. Basically, it's the living room only. Right, this living room is a little bit bigger. And the bigger space, if I see from the floor plan, likely will actually be the walkway here only. So you have a little bit more privacy because, you know, it's an angle here to walk in. Compared to here, you see straight. Yeah, so this space will take away about 1 square meter. Yeah. Then after the bottom part, which is 84 square meter, this one is with store. So this one additional, this is 84 square meter. So this one is the first one with a space for you to store things. And this storeroom, right, is efficient in a way that the walls here can be removed. So you can make it into open space, right? Or you can just leave it as a store for you to keep your things. Then from here onwards, premium with yard, right? This is where you have your bomb shelter area already, right at the bottom here. Right, then down here, this floor plan is quite nice because they don't have a walkway here. Right, so if let's say for example, like you see the next one, right, you do have the walkway over here, right, which actually counts into your floor area also. Right, so in terms of layout, you can see these two, this one and this one, the main two difference. Likely I personally feel will probably be this small area over here. Right, then the kitchen 11, 12 will be the same. Down here 19, down here 17. But if I based on this floor plan, I've got a feeling that some of it, right, will probably key into this longer passageway for the master bedroom. Okay, so we just talk about the first page first, because 3 bedrooms, there's a lot of floor plans, right? So my choice will be 3 bedrooms, right? For this page itself, will be as follows. So probably in terms of affordability, my choice for this page itself will probably be this one and this one, which is 3A and 3C. Because of affordability at 74 and 77 square meter, is probably going to be the most affordable, as well as having the sweet spot there. Yeah, my only small concern, right, would actually be this extra weighted space over here, right? This extra space over here, right, we only can know, like for example, in terms of PSF, like does it make sense to pay for the extra small space over there? And this one can only be done during the ballot day itself. So from here onwards, the floor plan starts to increase from 92 square meter to 94 to 94 to 95 and 96. So what's the main difference is that from this part onwards, which is 3G onwards, and go to 3H, right, you have the extra space over here, which is for the master bedroom, right, there is a walk-in wardrobe area. So that's why there's an increase in size. Then this is also 94 square meter, then this is also 95. So 95 probably, compared to this layout, which is 3H and 3I, compared to 3J, right, probably you're paying a little bit more because of the size at this part over here, which is the extra walkway space. Then from here again, this one will probably you're paying a little bit more for the extra walkway space over here. So, and the master bedroom size are probably a little bit bigger, right? This you can see over here compared to this, and this a little bit bigger for the walk-in wardrobe space, right? And something nice is that they have a window over here, right? But this is a show flat unit. So if you go to a show flat at Tengah Garden Residences, this would be the bedroom type you'll be looking at. Okay, so compared to this view, if you were to select one, why I put this 3E here, right? Because if you were to select one with a storeroom and you want everything, like a storeroom functionality, everything, and I know we talk about sweet spot, which is this 3G over here, and as well as 3K over here, the one I highlight like Stack 18, all these are units that will likely have the sweet spot. But in terms of functionality and price point, 3E might be a bit competitive also. So have to look at the price point at the point of time, because for a unit, right, there's everything just without the master bedroom walk-in wardrobe, 90 square meter, right, the price point could be attractive also. So in summary, if let's say in terms of budgeting, sweet spot, 3C and 3A could be a good choice on the day of booking, depends on price point. But for functionality, let's say if you are going to stay there for a while also and not buying for investment and probably sell to the next family that needs a bit of functionality also, like a storage space, 3E could be something to look out for also, right, on the booking day itself. Okay, for 4 bedroom also, we're also going to give a quick summary. So for here, this size over here, right, all these size is 105 square meter. So for 4A, 4B and 4C, right, what is the main difference? Right, for 4A and 4B, you can see the difference, right, is probably just the reconfiguration of the layout, but more or less the same. Right, for 4C, there'll be difference already. Yeah? Over here, there's extra corridor space here. So again, I think extra corridor space can't be fully utilized. So I think this space usually I'll try to avoid. In terms of sweet spot, we'll actually fall under here already. So 4D onwards, right, we'll have the sweet spot. Right, but 4D again, 106 square meter, right, where the difference is probably will actually be the extra space here in the extra bit, with the extra space in the master bedroom, and as well as the extra space here along the corridor. Yeah, so this one, although they have the sweet spot, but in terms of the price point, because the size is bigger, the overall quantum might be a bit different also. So again, on the booking day, then probably we can see the main difference of this. Okay, then for 4E onwards, why suddenly there's a huge jump from, for example, this one is 106 square meter to 117 square meter, right, is because there's an extra toilet already. Right, so for all the 4 bedrooms, right, you will see that there's a junior master suite, which is here, which is a Jack and Jill toilet that all the other bedrooms can access to. But for 4E onwards, there's going to be an extra toilet right here in the middle. So technically, all the common rooms and the master bedroom all have a ensuite toilet to it. But in terms of the efficiency of layout, I would feel 4F might be better because 4F falls down to 116 square meter. So the space you're paying for probably will be this corridor area over here. Then the last one, right, will be actually 4G. So 4G and 4F is actually very, very similar. So again, similar to 4A and 4B, like they just reconfigure the layouts a little bit only. So in terms of unit selection layout, again, really depends on the booking day itself. But let's say, for example, the first choice, if price, everything is okay, right, probably the first choice I will go for is 4D because it hits the sweet spot. Right. Then let's say, for example, if I still want everything and the functionality of everything, probably it'll be 4A as well as 4B. 4E almost I feel is still okay, but in terms of affordability, yeah, the smaller units, right, might probably be more affordable for upgraders. Yeah, but let's say, for example, if I were to look one with extra bath, then probably my choice would be 4F or 4G really, right? Because for 4E, I might want to avoid paying extra for the corridor space, which I might not utilize it also. Yep, and we come to the end of our project analysis for Tengah Garden Residences. If you still have any queries about the floor plan or you need the floor plan, pricing or size of any other queries at all, you can always drop us a WhatsApp message. It will help us a lot if you can follow our YouTube, Facebook or Instagram and TikTok. Yeah, if not, just nice the like, right? If not, I'll see you guys in the next video. Right, see you guys. Bye.